The proof is that they didn't investigate it.
Okay.
Um,
At this point, what are you doing now? Where do we stand now, today, with this
Now,
case?
well, I tried to do something legally. Nothing got done in the civil case, but I was able to gather the evidence that proved that the medical records were incorrect. The medical records were finally changed in '97 based on the deposition that I got from the doctor of record. They never talked to the doctor of record. I mean, it's just that simple. So you changed the records in '97 based on a deposition from '94, the records that were made in '92. All these cases were all closed in '94. So I don't understand, what did they possibly do? The investigations came to an end in '94, and the records didn't finally get corrected until '97, based, once again, on my deposition that I took of the doctor of record. Here I am. I've been declared mentally ill as a result of this incident. My psyche has been shattered. I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, MPD, schizophrenia, paranoia. One doctor, of all the doctors I've seen, said that I don't have schizophrenia. I saw her one day, one time, so this is the one doctor that says I don't have schizophrenia. And the defense in this case thought it was a joke. They really thought it was a joke until the doctor not only gave testimony about the time on the records being incorrect, which is the objective portion. I could have been in jail behind this. I mean, this is a toxicology report. This was DNA before DNA. So the doctor of record says that the hospital is wrong. And he also said that the hospital records do not indicate the police presence in the hospital, but the police were there. He said that under oath. And he also said that the police are the ones that helped him determine that I was violent and abusive and loud and obnoxious. This was the subjective portion of the medical record. So it says there that I was abusive and I was violent. I'm strapped down this whole time, you know. This is violently posturing. They tried to kill me. Am I supposed to be calm and have a cup of tea? They tried to kill me. So the cops were surrounding this doctor, telling this story to the doctor, feeding their story to the doctor, and the doctor's passing on the police story as if it's the medical story.
As if it's his observation,
yes,
actually.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and there's no mention of the police in the hospital, so how would the police get this doctor to say this, and it doesn't even show the police are there? It sounds like the hotel says he's wild and out of control, and the hospital says he's wild and out of control. But really, one of the police worked for the hotel, and he got to write some of the hotel report. And then the cops are talking to this doctor. So really, it's the police story in the hotel and in the hospital, but the police have no records of this incident.
And the doctor did not observe any of the behavior that is described in the report?
No, he didn't see anything. I was strapped. He always saw me. I was handcuffed and strapped to a bed lying on my back. But after I finally got this deposition from this doctor, well, then I knew that 20 years from now, it'll still be a deposition from a doctor entered into a court of law. It's not hearsay. It's not a rumor. It's factual. The evidence that I've gathered, it raises more questions than answers. The police first said they weren't. The police whole answer to this whole situation is they weren't there. They weren't in the ambulance. They weren't in the hospital. They don't know what I'm talking about. I must be making it up. The records show that I'm wild, crazy, drunk. So, maybe he's not mean and malicious or a liar. He just doesn't know what happened to him. But I know for what happened to me when the doctor corroborated my story with the clock. It was like, well, I wasn't dreaming it. It did happen. I was there. I didn't just bite my tongue. It really happened. And also, the laceration on my tongue was noted down in the ambulance record and in the hospital. I wasn't bleeding in the hotel. So there's no marks of me bleeding in the hotel. It only starts in the ambulance. And also in the ambulance, the ambulance drivers, they wrote down, the cops rode in the ambulance. It's only a block. It's literally cat-a-corner to the hotel. There was really no reason to ride in the ambulance. They could have carried me across the street to the hospital. But by riding in the ambulance, they were able to seclude themselves from everybody that could see. Everyone could see them in the lobby. I mean, people with mink coats were walking by. They were just strolling like this happens every day. There's a black man on the floor rolling around. They didn't take any notice. But in the ambulance, I thought the room at the time was an ambulance, they were able to seclude themselves and do what they did. And when they dumped me off in the hospital, and I saw the clock, and it was later corroborated, I knew that someone's going to have to answer to why they didn't get this information from the doctor. Where was their investigation?
Okay, we're going to take a short break right now, and then we'll come back and refocus on this and see exactly how this has progressed, okay? Sure. We'll be right back. Okay, we're talking to Earl Gardner, and we just found out how some injustice has taken place and how he's really tried to find, he had to do most of the work himself, the investigative work, to try to get some type of justice. And the question tonight really is, what does a person do when they feel that they have been mistreated by people in authority, such as the police? What's the recourse? Can they really depend on the police investigating themselves? Who do they turn to? What can they do? Earl, tell me now, I mean, you must have gotten some satisfaction from realizing that, well, to a certain extent, that what your efforts really brought forth was something that, in the end, made them change records, and it brought the light on the fact that you weren't imagining things. The time factor, that was a big thing right there.
Yeah, it was tremendous.
At the time factor, the hospital records were actually incorrect, and they changed it.
The black hole level and the time. I mean, with the time that they had on there, with that time and black hole level, if they had extrapolated it back to when this happened around 11:30, 12 a.m., my alcohol level at that point would have been astronomical. It would have been just off the charts to the point where I should have died of the lack of respiration, or whatever I said couldn't be believed. One or the other. I mean, you're just so drunk that you should be dead, and if you're not dead, you can't be believed. Right. And it turns out that I wound up living, and I can tell time. I don't need the doctors and medical record to tell time. I can tell time, and that's since I was in kindergarten. So I knew I had some credibility along those lines.
So what's the next step? What has happened? What's happening now?
Well, the civil case, the criminal cases, they all rolled into the county prosecutor, who told me in the letter to me that he wasn't going to investigate. Well, they can't dismiss it because I gave him the wrong date.
Right.
That's what they told me. All right, then after I got the records changed, and then I could prove that the FBI and the county prosecutor and the Department of Law and Public Safety and Internal Affairs didn't investigate it because who'd they subpoena? Who'd they talk to? I went to the senators and asked them to check with the FBI.
Right.
And they checked with the FBI. The FBI says that they read the reports of the prosecutor, and the prosecutor sends the senators different letters about the same thing. He doesn't send none of the letter that he says where he dismissed the case because I gave him the wrong date. He says that they dismissed the case. It's like a 3-page letter. It's all these paragraphs where they checked with this office and they checked with that office and they wrote this letter and wrote that letter, and they dismissed it based on all of this quote-unquote evidence. But even according to their own account, they didn't talk to anybody. They didn't talk to anybody involved with the case. They only talked to other supposed investigators.
Right.
So no one's really, it's a cabal. I mean, they're talking to people who say that they investigated, but they actually didn't.
Okay, today, right? Year 2004.
2004.
The civil case is still active, is still open, or what?
The civil case was dismissed after I got the medical records changed, got the evidence to change them. They weren't changed at that point. They were going to be changed, but this had the testimony. At that point, the defense realized that this really did happen.
Right.
And I'm not joking, and that I might get some legal counsel. And what they were able to do, they outlawyered me. I wasn't a lawyer, never pretended to be, but did the best I could. And they had all of my medical records that I ever, from any doctor, anywhere. I signed all these releases. They had every education record I ever had from kindergarten. Right. So of all the doctors I went to, one doctor said I didn't have schizophrenia.
Right, but
so they sent that doctor's report to the judge and said, well, look, even if what he says is true, he doesn't have an injury. That alone is enough. You lose the civil case.
The civil case. Okay.
So that ended my civil case because, according to them, I didn't have an injury. Although I had been on disability for the 5 years prior to that, and the 7 years since, I wasn't able to get the motion right to get it to the judge, so that the judge understand that I do have an injury.
Okay. Now, how about the criminal case? You said that was dismissed also.
The criminal case. Well, they didn't dismiss them. They never did anything.
Okay.
They only say they did something.
What would you like to have done now?
Well, I can't have these police officers handcuffed so I can suffocate them, which is ultimately what you'd like to have done. Do what they did to you. But legally, I think that these people should be locked up. I have no doubt about it. I don't know what the statute of limitation is criminally on attempted murder and kidnapping, which is what the charges were that I filed against these officers, because there was never any intent to do any police work involved in this. They only intended to move me from where I was so they could torture and abuse me as they saw fit without any repercussions. That's what they tried to do. That's what they did.
Well, Earl, I have to say, we're going to get a wrap up right now. I'm very happy that they didn't succeed in doing that. And I'm also happy that you were able to keep your wits, to be able to do investigation on yourself, and to try your best to correct something that should have been corrected. It's unfortunate that both the civil case and the criminal case, well, didn't really achieve anything. But
As of yet.
As of yet, you're still fighting it. But I think that this poses a question for all of us. What should we do individually if we need some recourse from those who are supposed to protect us when they abuse us? Okay, so thanks for coming on the show.
Sure.
And I do wish you a lot of luck. You're going to need, maybe someone out there can help you. I hope that if you can, that maybe they can call. There's a number or something to call you. They can put it up there later on.
Sure.
But anyway, thank you for being with us out there. My name is Victor Arnez, and until next time.